Thank you so much. I am Mayor Eric Adams, and I'm joined here by members of the FDNY, EMS, law enforcement, as well as my colleagues in government.
No audio.
It's okay, they're going to turn it back on.
Lights out.
One, two.
Okay.
1, 2, okay?
Yes.
I'm joined, as I stated, by my colleagues in government that are also here, Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin, Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, Congressman Richie Torres, Councilman Oswald Velez, and I'm sure there's more that's here. If I miss you, I apologize. We are going to continue to remain vigilant to address this just horrific tragedy that we're facing. The ME modified the numbers of those who lost lives. We have 17 lost, 9 are adults and 8 are children. This is really an evolving crisis. And so as it evolves and as we get new information, we're going to share it with you as well, so you can let the public know what we're going through. We said this yesterday, and we will continue to say this is an unspeakable tragedy. Early this morning, I was joined with the Chancellor. We visited every school in the area where the children, our young scholars, lost their lives. We sat down with the principal and the teachers and just wanted to have a private moment to let them know that we are here to support them as they go through this tragedy. They shared just personal notes of these children, and it was something that we heard universally about each child that we lost is how much they smiled, how much they brought life to the school. And not only did this fire leave a burning pain in the hearts of people in this community, but it has left a burning pain in the children and the teachers and the faculties of this school. We will support these schools in every way possible in the coming months. Educators, students, staff, all of them realize that they're going through a traumatic moment, and we want to be here for them. And it is clear that these families and the entire community is receiving support from across the country. Just a few moments ago, I received a call from President Biden, and he has made it clear that whatever we need, the White House is going to be there for us. He has just sent a very strong message that this is on the radar of the entire globe of what has happened here. The Consul General of the Dominican Republic is here with us, and his team. This is a global tragedy because the Bronx in New York City is representative of the ethnicities and cultures across the globe. And so everyone is feeling the pain of what we are experiencing. But I would tell you this, and I say over and over again, we're going to get through this moment. We're going to get through this moment, and we're going to get through it together. And this tragedy is not going to define us. It is going to show our resiliency as we help the families through this. In the middle of such pain, we have witnessed such a high level of heroism. From the hospital staff, the doctors, the nurses, the administrators who are already going through crises with the pandemic. But we also witness a high level of heroism through those first responders, the EMS, the firefighters. I would say this over and over again, watching them go in the building, even without having a full air tank, still pushing through the dark smoke and rescuing families in this building. Our firefighters as first responders really showed why it is imperative to give them the support that they need. And I want to thank Commissioner Nigro for just really leading this charge yesterday, being out here throughout the day, leading his men and women to do what was needed to save as many families as possible. And to every grieving family, 8.8 million New Yorkers see you as their family members, and we are here together to push through this. And so, some clear messages we want to send. One, for those who want to help, please do not drop donations off to fire stations or EMS stations. Let them do their jobs. There are real outlets. Our elected officials are here. You can just drop them off at the offices or other facilities that we will put in place if you want to do so. If you want to help financially, we have the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York. Every dollar raised will go directly to the family members that are involved. So this way we can help families in a real way. And if we take one message from this that Commissioner Nigro has mentioned several times, close the door. Close the door. That was embedded in my head as a child watching the commercials over and over again. We're going to double down on that message. My conversation with the Chancellor this morning, we're going to send out communications to all of our schools and state that we want our children to receive the same level of reinforcement. Muscle memory is everything. And if we can drill that in, we can save lives by closing the doors, not only in the city, but across the entire globe. This painful moment can turn into a purposeful moment as we send the right message of something simple as closing the door. And we want to really thank all the community's leaders that are here in this community, a member of the African diaspora, and recognizing some of the communication gaps, building those bridges, having the community come together as a whole to make sure that we provide the services that are needed for this community to get on the road of healing from this devastating event. No one wants to hear about the loss of life, and that is even more impactful when that loss consists of children of this level and this magnitude. Before turning it over to the other representatives are here, I want to turn it over to the Chancellor, who visited the schools with me today, and thank him for showing the infrastructure support to the educators in the school. They were appreciative of your presence and showed how serious this matter is to all of us. Chancellor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was certainly my pleasure to join the mayor this morning as we visited 4 schools, 2 traditional public schools and 2 charter schools. And I think it's important to note that that when it comes to moments like this, there's no separation between us. These are all of our children. And to hear the heartbreak from the principals of each one of those schools, the teachers, the school safety officers, the custodial workers, we came there to thank them, to let them know that we are here for them. But they each one of them also told us about each one of the young people who died. They're not just a name. They told us stories about each one of them. And my heart broke as we heard just about how passionate each young person was and how they came to life for us. One teacher read a letter that he had just gotten a few days ago. And it was just heartbreaking. And so I want to say also, I sent out a letter to every school principal and educator across the city this morning, asking that we all take time to reflect on this tragedy, but also to make sure that we are providing opportunities to talk about fire safety. During this winter season, there are a lot of people in their homes and in their apartments who are using these heaters, and unfortunately we have these kinds of accidents, and certainly nothing as tragic as this, but this is the time to make this an educational moment. And as the mayor said, something as simple as closing the door. And our young people need to be taught that. They need to be reminded of that and take that as something that they will take with them for the rest of their lives as well. And so I just simply want to thank all of the personnel at all of our schools that have been affected. The teachers, the principals, the administrators, the librarians, the custodians, the school safety workers, the nurses. Everyone has been impacted by this. It's a monumental tragedy. And we just send prayers and all of our deepest thoughts with the families who are going through so much. God bless.
Thank you. And as indicated, there was a large Gambian community here, and we have the ambassador here of Gambia. Please allow him to come up and say a few words.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. I have come here from Washington to meet you and the local authorities to learn more about this tragic incident that took so many lives and left many more struggling for their lives. This is very unfortunate, and I think I dare say that the majority of the victims apparently have their roots from the Gambia. We are a very small country of about less than 2 million people, and we are all related. Everybody knows everybody. So our country is currently in a state of shock. Before I came in here, I spoke to the President of the Republic of the Gambia, Mr. Adam Barrow, and he has asked me to extend his condolences to the bereaved family members from the Gambia and from everywhere. This is a shock. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll be here for you. So we know we want to get to the Commissioner to answer any questions, but I just want to allow those electeds who are here and who was here all night, for the most part, respond to this. We want to have the Lieutenant Governor, Brian Benjamin, then the Bronx VP, Vanessa Gibson, then Congressman Richie Torres, and then finally Councilman Oswald Velez.
All New Yorkers share their condolences with this tragic occurrence, and I want to just reiterate 2 points. First, Governor Hochul mentioned yesterday that there will be a victims compensation fund. There will be resources in the state budget which will be allocated to assist on the ground, and we'll work with our local leaders to make sure that those funds are dispersed. And secondly, over 75 units in this building, which is a state supervised Mitchell Lama building, have project-based vouchers. Individuals who are not able to re-inhabit their apartments, those vouchers will be able to move with them to a new location. We will be working with the developers and those on the ground to make sure that everyone has adequate housing as soon as possible if they cannot come back to the building. And so the state will stand with the city and stand with the Bronx to make sure that no one is left behind, and that we ensure that everyone who's been impacted by this tragedy gets whatever we can give to them to make their lives whole. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. On behalf of 1.5 million Bronxites, we extend our condolences and prayers of healing strength to all of those that have been impacted by this devastating 5-alarm fire here in Fordham. I am Bronx Borough President Vanessa L. Gibson. This is my first week on the job, and I am devastated and truly heartbroken and overwhelmed at all that has happened in these last 24 hours. I want to thank our first responders, the FDNY, Commissioner Daniel Nigro, and 200 plus firefighters that responded in minutes to make sure that we saved as many lives as we could. We are a mourning city and we are a mourning borough, but we know that we will survive and we will heal. We want to assure every resident and family here at Twin Parks that they are not alone. We are walking with you on this painful journey, and we're going to make sure that we do our part and everything necessary to provide all of the support on the ground from the social emotional support to making sure our children are supported, trauma-informed care, resources, temporary and long-term housing. We have been on site since 1 a.m. to make sure that every client had housing last night. Over 4 hotels and all of the residents that remain hospitalized with serious and critical injuries. So we are asking all New Yorkers and all Bronxites to please join us in praying for these families. No one expected to wake up on a Sunday morning hearing about a fire in their building, running for their lives. This is profound sadness for all of us. But we know that in times of challenge, New Yorkers step up, because that's just what we do. And so we are going to love on this community and love on these residents and families and let them know that they are not alone. We will walk this journey together to make sure they have everything that is needed. I am grateful for the incredible support from Governor Kathy Hochul, Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin, and all of my colleagues in government. We're going to work together to make sure that we prevent any tragedy from happening in this magnitude ever again. Thank you so much, everyone. I am so grateful and so proud to be the borough president of a borough like the Bronx, where we are resilient, we are tough, and we are going to turn our pain into purpose. God bless us all, and thank you so much to all of our first responders for your incredible support.
Good afternoon. I'm Congressman Richie Torres. First, I want to thank the mayor, who has been as visible and as responsive and as compassionate and comforting as any leader as I've seen in a moment of crisis. The Bronx is no stranger to deadly fires. I lived through one in Belmont just a few years ago. And so I'm enormously grateful to the mayor and to the city for mobilizing resources and coming to our aid in a moment of need. You know, the two things that are most important to most of us is our family and our homes, and to lose both in the span of one tragedy is terrifying and traumatic to an extent that few of us could imagine. What do you tell a mother who's lost her children and who's lost her home, who's lost everything, who's seen the world around her collapsed? So we're going to do our best to bring comfort to those families. I do want to tell the mayor and the city that as the local congressman, I'm committed to advancing legislation that addresses either the manufacturing of space heaters or the need for education about fire safety or the need for self-closing doors in affordable housing that receives federal funding, so you have a partner at the federal level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm Councilmember Feliz. I represent this area of the Bronx. What happened yesterday was a frightening nightmare. The Bronx continues to have many challenges, and fire continues to be one of them. We've had some of the worst fires in the city of New York right here in the Bronx, including the Belmont fire, including the one in Woody Crest, including the one yesterday where we lost 19 lives, including babies, 4-year-olds. But I want to thank all of our wonderful leaders, our colleagues in government, city, state and federal, who have been here around the clock and available and providing all the resources needed to all the affected families, including food, including clothing, and including housing. And as council member, I'll be working with my colleagues, including our congressman at the federal level, our borough president, our mayor, Eric Adams, and our state elected leaders, to make sure that we get additional fire-related laws to protect New Yorkers, because we've had far too many fires, and this cannot continue to be the future of our borough. So we're going to be continuing to work with our leaders to make sure we strengthen some of our laws, analyze what exactly happened yesterday and what we could learn from it and what we can do to make sure it never happens again. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to bring on the Commissioner, Fire Commissioner Nigro, and the Deputy Commissioner of OEM for if there's any updates on what we're doing and as we mobilize and move forward.
Thank you, Mayor. The investigation continues. As I said yesterday, we're certain that the fire started with a faulty electrical heater, portable heater. The fire was contained to the hallway just outside this 2-story apartment, but the smoke traveled throughout the building, and the smoke is what caused the deaths and the serious injuries. So our fire marshals teams are here. They've been here. They've been examining the building. They've been examining videotape. They will do a complete investigation as to how this occurred, why this occurred, and we're confident of that. As the mayor stated previously, patients were taken to 7 different hospitals. There was a bit of a double count, and I guess it's a bit of good news that the number isn't 19 but 17. But don't forget, there are many people fighting for their lives in the hospital who were transported, so this number could unfortunately increase again. So our prayers are with them, and the prayers continue to be with the families of those we lost. I will let OEM discuss more about the continued operations for the families.
Thank you. So last night, the building was totally vacated. No apartments were habited last night. We, through the American Red Cross, with Housing Preservation and Development, and with the building management, about half of those units, so about 60 different families, stayed in area hotels. We were able to house everyone in the Bronx. And the rest, as I said, there are people still in hospitals, and people also went to friends and family. Ongoing is registration with the Red Cross. People are coming out of hospitals, people were at work or somewhere else, so it's never too late. People can continue to register with the Red Cross. We worked with the Department of Education. They were able to help to get the children back, as was noted, back to their schools this morning, and they will continue to help them until people are back in the building. It does look like many of the apartments will be able to be reoccupied as the week goes on, which is good news. There are a certain number of apartments that will be, not habitable for quite some time, and so we will continue to work to find long-term housing with the state and with the city. We moved out of the school since the school opened this morning. There is now a service center at Monroe College, which is close by. We have several different agencies there. It opened at 12 o'clock. It's open till 8 p.m. It'll be open this week. So residents can come by there and continue to receive services. We have interpreters there. There's been an outpouring of support, as everyone said, the borough president, everyone else. There's a lot of food and other resources that we have been able to share with the families. Thank you.
Couple questions, guys, starting in front.
To the mayor and to the commissioner, of the people who died and of the people who suffered critical injuries, were they all found in the hallways and the stairwells, or were some of them actually found in their apartments? And the reason I ask is I wonder whether those victims would have been better off had they remained in their apartments and waited for firefighters to rescue them.
Okay, I don't have a tally of where exactly everyone was found. The people from the fire department all got out on their own, and they were safe. Certainly the stairwell was very dangerous as the door was left open. Some of the floors, certainly on 15, the door was open from the stair to the hall, and the 15th floor became quite untenable. We do recommend in high-rise fireproof buildings that people should shelter in place, and it's safer to be in your apartment than to venture out and try to get down the stairs and sometimes into a much more dangerous situation. But this investigation, as I said before, is incomplete and inconclusive so far.
Sir, is there a reason why those doors aren't self-closing?
They are self-closing, but the door on 15 and the door to the fire apartment was not functioning as it should.
Guys, sit from the back.
As a follow-up to that, if the door is not functioning as it should in the fire, is that a violation of the law?
Well, it would be if it was pointed out. So we'd like to point out today to everyone, if you're in a building, an apartment building that has self-closing doors, make sure it works. And if it doesn't, please point that out to the landlord, to the maintenance folks, and make sure your door closes as it should.
Steve in the back.
It's still part of the investigation. There's been some stories that the alarm system went off regularly. There's been some stories that people smoking in the halls set off the alarm. So our investigation will determine that.
In front.
altered.
I can answer the first question. The door was not obstructed. The door, when it was fully open, stayed fully open because it malfunctioned. As far as the building ownership, someone else will have to answer that.
It's all of the above. So it's project-based Section 8, which is a federal program. It is a state Michelama, which is the state, and every property, regardless of whether it's federal or state, is subject to the building, housing, and fire code.
Yes, Commissioner, were there smoke detectors in the hallways? Are they required in the hallways as well, or should they be in hallways?
Well, the smoke alarms are required in the apartments. There were smoke alarms sounding. As I said yesterday, the first call from a neighbor came because they heard smoke alarms sounding in the building. The folks in the apartment where the fire started were alerted by the fire itself. So that didn't seem to be a factor in this fire.
What about in hallways? Are they required? This is a very long building. Would that have helped if they were in hallways?
I don't know if that would have helped or if they were required in this particular building.
Down in front.
So the residents where the fire broke out, the apartment where the fire broke out, they were home at the time? Why would their door have been open?
Well, the resident, they opened the door to escape the apartment. There were multiple people living in that apartment. As they left, they opened the door and the door stayed opened.
Two more guys right there.
Is there any investigation as to whether or not the residents were receiving adequate heat?
Yeah, I want to answer that, but I want to go back to the resident in the open apartment. And we want to be clear here that we don't want to add further trauma on that family because they fled the apartment. You know, muscle memory during a crisis, you're trying to get out. It is our obligation to reinforce the concept of close the door, close the door. But what we don't want to do is just to add more trauma on a family that was simply trying to escape a very dangerous and a very frightening experience. All of us make mistakes during crises. And so, yes, we want to encourage, we're going to double down on closing the door and that message. And it's our obligation to do so. But our hearts go out to this family. And I just want to be clear on that. They're going through trauma as well. There was no outstanding violations of our knowledge of a heat complaint in the building. But again, this investigation is really new, and the fire marshal and other city entities are looking at all of this information.
Last question.
When will the investigation be expected to be completed, and what is the building managers, and what are they doing to exactly help with the investigation?
Well, they have to comply, and the investigation will be completed when the fire marshal do their thorough look. And we have a professional fire marshal entity in this city. And one thing we never want to do is to try to make an investigation be expeditious, but not thorough. They're going to be thorough, they do their job well, and they will give the outcome, and they know when it will be completed.
That's it. Thanks a lot, guys.